Hi everyone, it's Lisa. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm sharing with you this product that is from the Stamps of Life, and it will be featured on HSN in August 2020. And it is this fun pickup truck. It's an old-fashioned pickup truck, and this is a die that actually makes a card shaped like a pickup truck. So it is a little bit larger in size. So you can see here that it's gonna measure 7 inches wide, and then tall, it's about 4.5 inches. So it will fit in an envelope that is for a 5x7 card. And you can use this as a card base, you can use it for a card top, you can use it in a scrapbook page. So there's all kinds of fun possibilities that you can use this for. I just love this old-fashioned pickup truck, so I'm really excited to work with it. It does come with the shadow layer, which this is the piece that is, if you're making your actual card base, this is the piece that you'll need. And this is your layering piece, and all of these pieces will cut out. And it does come with these several of these dies that you see here. So you have presents. So if you wanted to make this a birthday card, you could, or if you wanted to make it a Christmas card with presents, you can do that. It also has this Christmas tree. All of these dies have their shadow layer and then the layering piece. It also has several pumpkins, so there's 4 pumpkins with their shadow layers, as well as a die that is your leaves. And it also has these fun flowers. And it also comes with this stamp set, and it says sending loads of, and then you can say birthday wishes, get well wishes, holiday wishes, hugs and kisses, Christmas wishes, prayers, love, and then you can end it by saying your way. Now I'm going to be making a few cards with this die set so you can see how it's used, but I do want to point out that when I first got this die set from the Stamps of Life, my version was a little bit different than what you see here. For example, I had the flowers that had a shadow layer, which this revised version, the final version, does not include the shadow layer. So that is one thing that is different. In addition, on one of the cards, I do make a winter theme, and I did not have this tree, so I did not use this tree. Instead, I used the Christmas tree to stamp die and put a Christmas tree in the bed of the truck. I'm gonna start out by making my fold-it card. So I'm taking a piece of white cardstock and I'm just folding it in half, and I'm going to layer this die on top. So you can choose to have the fold open from the top or from the side. And if you want it to open from the side, you are going to need a longer sheet of cardstock, because obviously the standard 8.5 by 11 cardstock will not be long enough. So I'm not going to be opening it from the side. Instead, I'm going to open it from the top. So I will want to make sure that my die is slightly above this fold. So you make sure the die is slightly above the fold in your cardstock, and put your washi tape on there and run that through your die cut machine. When that comes out of your die cut machine, you have your card base. So when you take this large die and you die cut to make your card base, recall that you had the cardstock below the die. So what happens is part of that cardstock is cut off. So you can see that the card base has a flat edge, whereas the die has a rounded edge. So in order to fix that, you're going to take this die again and die cut it with another piece of cardstock, which that's the piece you're going to decorate to be your layering piece that goes on top of this card base. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of ginger snap cardstock and I die cut it using this die. It's just a single layer of cardstock, and that piece is going to go right on top of that card base. So this is the piece that I'm going to be decorating, and I'm going to set this piece aside. And we are going to take this die, and I want my actual truck to be in the ocean color, so I'm going to die cut this ocean piece of cardstock out of the layering die. So when that comes out of the die cut machine, you get all of these fun pieces, And you can see it cuts out everything. So you actually get the window, the wheels, the bumpers, you get all of it. Now, all of these pieces that were die cut, obviously I'm not gonna make this whole entire truck in this ocean color. This is really the main piece that I want in the ocean, as well as these pieces for the tops of the wheels. Everything else I'm going to want in a different color. So I'm going to take this die again, and I'm going to die cut it in various color cardstocks for what I want for those color pieces. So for example, the wheels, I know that I'm going to want black. The taillight I'm going to want in a red, and maybe do a yellow for this headlight. So I need to pick out different color pieces of cardstock that I want. So I die cut all my pieces, and I'm gonna go ahead and just start adding some ink to these pieces. I'm going to be adding some ocean ink to the ocean pieces. I have the storm ink for the storm pieces, and I did cut the headlight out of the banana, so I'll ink that up. And I'm not gonna worry about the black or the red for the tail light because those are too small and you won't really be able to see the black anyway. So I'm gonna go ahead and ink these up. Next, I took the pumpkin dies and I die cut them out of the tangerine cardstock. And I did the shadow layer and the top layer, and I'm gonna add some tangerine ink on only that top layering piece, not the shadow layer, and I'm gonna do that for all of them. And then I'm just going to glue them to their shadow layers. Before I add all of these pieces to my truck, I went ahead and colored up the scarecrow, and I'm gonna put him in the front of the truck like he's driving. So I need to make sure that I cut him apart exactly how I want him before I adhere this truck, because obviously he's gonna go behind the truck. So I did die cut him with the shadow layer, so now I just need to basically see how far I need to, like the pieces that I need to cut around him. And I obviously need to kind of get rid of some of this fence that he's hooked onto. And I just really need to cut the bottom part off and just some of this part. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come in here with my scissors, and I'm just gonna fussy cut just along this edge just to get rid of that fence, because I don't want that showing. Okay, I'm gonna cut off his hand because that is not gonna need to be shown. And a little bit more of his hand and a little bit of his feet. So I'm gonna cut around that. And that should do it. So he can sit right behind that perfectly. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some tape on him. So kind of just line this up where I want him. Still need to cut a little bit more of his hand off. So I don't want that showing beyond the truck. I'm gonna turn this over. I'm just gonna add some tape here just to hold that in place. I'm gonna put a little bit of glue down here just to keep him there. A little bit of glue here at the top to hold his hat down. Let's put a little piece of tape there. All right, and that should do it. Now, if you want to see the coloring for the scarecrow, you can go over to my other video where I made another card with the scarecrow and the turkey, and I will show the coloring there. Coloring is pretty much the same, so I didn't want to show it again. So before I add this piece to my card base, I'm going to put a stamp on it. And rather than using the stamps that came in the stamp with the stamp set, I'm choosing to use the Words for Wreath and using the Autumn Greetings sentiment. because this is a fall card or an autumn card, and it's just, I just like this saying better. So I'm going to go ahead and stamp this in here. And maybe I think I'm going to do them separately. So I'm using my chocolate ink from the Stamps of Life, and I'm going to ink up the word greetings. So now I'm ready to glue this down to my Ginger Snap cardstock. So here I had that double-sided tape. Let me go ahead and take this up so that has a sticky back, and I'm going to go ahead and add glue. And I just kind of wiped up some of this glue that I had there right on the edge, just in case I want to put the pumpkins inside, like just insert them behind the truck. I'll have some space there. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this. And I'm just going to continue to add these pieces where they go. Now for these pieces, I'm going to put some foam adhesive just to pop those up. And you make sure that you have them in the right order. This one is a little narrower than this one. So I went ahead and arranged my pumpkins the way that I want them in the truck. So they are going between this teal layer, the ocean layer, and the ginger snap. So I'm just gonna put a little bit of glue on the back, and then this one is gonna actually get some glue right there on the side. And I'm just gonna stick these in. Just put some glue here at the bottom. So they're layered up there. They have the glue at the bottom. Now I'm gonna take my turkey. He's gonna be behind that. I did die cut some leaves out of the artichoke cardstock. So I'm gonna put some ink, artichoke ink, on the edges of those. So again, these were cut with the leaf die. So I'm just adding a little bit of ink to these edges, and then I'm going to add these to my pumpkins just to give them a little bit more color, because it looks like a big bed of orange there. So I'm just adding a little bit to the tip, and I'm going to put these leaves just right by the stem. Now this one can actually be glued on the back tip as well, because I can press that right against this cardstock. So now I'm ready to add my turkey, and I'm just going to put glue on the front of his legs and then put him right behind there. So probably here and here, and just a little bit down here. Let's flip this behind and just make sure he's centered up. Now if you wanted to, you can move him down so that he's even with the top of this truck, but I didn't want to hide a lot of him, so I kept most of his body up. Okay, now I want to show this to you. Notice when I turn him over, he has my coloring coming through the back of that die cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that shadow layer, I'm going to die cut it again out of the powdered sugar cardstock and adhere that flat to it. So here's my shadow layer just cut out of plain white. So I'm just going to put glue on this, add this to the back, And now it's a clean piece on the back. Isn't that nice? Okay, last thing I'm going to do is I am going to take my card base and I'm going to glue this directly on my card base. So I'm going to lay this open and flat. I'm going to take this piece. Now, I'm not putting glue on the pumpkins or on that turkey. Okay, so I'm just putting glue anywhere where the truck is. So that does include the bottom of those turkeys, that turkey's feet. Okay. And then I'll turn this over, line this up. And there is my card. Oh my gosh, I just love how this turned out. Look how colorful that is. It's so pretty, perfect for fall. I love that. For this card, I am going to be using the elves to stamp. I'm going to be putting the elf in the truck. I think that'll be so adorable. So only part of him, I'm not going to color the whole thing. I'm only going to color maybe from his neck up because that's really all that's going to show, because I'm going to cut the rest of his body off. So let me go ahead and just add a little bit of color here to the top of his shirt, which I don't even think any more of that is gonna show, but I'm just gonna blend another color in here. So just do a 2-color blend right here. I'm not even gonna worry about coloring his hands. So I went ahead and die cut the pieces for my truck, and I am going to go ahead and place my little elf behind this window just to see where I want him. And I am going to glue him to the back, or I should say I'll just put some tape on there to tape him to the back of this truck just to make sure he's all attached. I am using the cranberry cardstock for the color of the truck. And then once I tape him, I'm just gonna flip him over and I'm just gonna trim off the excess there. So I didn't even need to cut the top. or I'm sorry, color the top of his pom-pom. So just trim that off, and then I'll be able to then glue that elf down. I completely forgot about inking these edges, so I'm just gonna come in here and just ink up the edges of this truck. This is the Cranberry Stamps of Life ink. So I should have did this before I added my elf, but that's okay. I just have to be careful not to get any ink on him. So now I'm gonna go ahead and glue him down. Next, I'm going to take my cloud ink. Just going to ink up some of these pieces that I cut out of the cloud cardstock. I went ahead and die cut a Christmas tree out of the Christmas tree die, and I'll link those products on my blog. These again are all Stamps of Life products, and I'm just inking up the layering pieces with some of the kiwi ink. This Christmas tree is going to go nicely in the bed of this truck. And I cut out the shadow layer and the artichoke paper. Now I didn't worry about doing a stem on here because you're not going to be able to see it. So I'm just going to put these layering pieces on here, and that's it. No stem, because that's going to be tucked inside the bed of the truck. I have this stamp set. This is the Christmas tree to stamp, and I'm just going to do some stamping. And they have these little ornaments. So I'm gonna stamp some of these out in various colors. And I'm not really sure if how these colors are gonna look against the dark background, but we'll see. Let's just start stamping and just see what this looks like. So I went ahead and used this, it's like a garland die for the Christmas tree, and I die cut it out of some of the cloud. I'm gonna put it along the edge of the truck just to add some decoration. The tree is actually gonna be sticking out of the truck. All right, so I already die cut the little ornaments. There is a die in that die set that will allow you to die cut them out. So it looks like this. And make sure that if you are duplicating this card that you are putting the double-sided adhesive on the back of your cardstock before you run this garland through, because I don't know how you get adhesive on the back of that. Look how intricate that is. All right, so I'm just gonna start up in the top corner. All right, so I'm just gonna position these ornaments where I think I want them to go. Just random places throughout. And once I have them positioned, then I will adhere them down. All right, I'm gonna go with this look. I added some red in and just scooted some over. So let me go ahead and pop these in place. Here's what it looks like so far. So double-sided adhesive foam on the back of these, and I'll go ahead and place them. I have this snowflake background die, and I am just going to put some double-sided adhesive on the back of some of the vanilla cardstock, and I'm going to run this die through my die cut machine to create some of these snowflakes. So I'm not actually using the background die, so to say. I'm just wanting to cut out these snowflakes to use them on my background and have double-sided adhesive on the back so that I don't have to put some glue on it. So I went ahead and cut down a piece of the Blue Jay paper. This is a 5x7, so I'm thinking I'm gonna put this card on an actual card base, a 5x7 card base, and have some snowflakes in the background. So I'm gonna start with my card base, and this is just a piece of a cardstock sheet that's gonna go on top of a 5x7 card base. And I'm just inking up the edges here. This is the Blue Jay ink. All right, so then I'm gonna take the snowflakes that came out of the background piece, and I am just going to start putting them on this sheet. Now, some of these snowflakes you'll see, like this one, it didn't cut the whole thing out because it was on the edge. So what I'll do in that case is I will make sure I put this on the edge, and then I'll just trim off the excess. So if that's the case and some of it's cut off, they're going on the edge. And I did the vanilla cardstock for the snowflake rather than the white because I wanted it to match this background that I have on the truck. All right, I'm gonna cut out, this is a cloud die, but I'm gonna use it as some snow at the bottom. So I'm just gonna use the same vanilla cardstock and run this through my die cut machine. And I am gonna just add some washi here to hold this down. So I'm gonna run that through. Now that's not gonna fit the whole length here of my card. So once that comes out, I'll have to run it through again. All right, so I've just cut through this part. Now I'm just gonna connect this. Let me pick this washi up. So I'm just gonna connect this here and run that through again. So I'm gonna go ahead and ink up the edges of this cloud just to give it a little bit of dimension. This is just the Blue Jay ink. You can use cloud ink, whatever you want. You just want to have a little bit of ink on here just to add some texture. All right, so when I position my truck on here, I want to be able to see some of these clouds. So I'm gonna put this cloud die pretty close to the bottom. So it is going to go pretty close to the bottom, and I'm just going to mark where I want it. Alright, so I have everything pretty much where I want it. I want to make sure that before I adhere anything down that the tree is not extending beyond the card layer. And I die cut the word believe because I want to have a sentiment on it. So I wanted just to make sure I have the tree exactly where I want it to go before I adhere this sentiment. I did put double-sided adhesive on the back. And I'm just going to just put it on here and see how this looks. And I also want to add just a little bit of glitter because I want the truck to look like it has some glitter on it, which would be real snow. Look like it has real snow anyway. So first, before I do the glitter, I'm going to adhere my tree down. And I am going to use double-sided tape to do that. So I went ahead and put some double-sided adhesive foam on the back side, and I'm going to go ahead and put it on my card layer. And I put the foam because there's so many layers between the snowflake and the Christmas tree. So rather than putting glue on there, I'm putting the foam. Isn't that cute? Okay, I have a 5x7. This is just a generic card base, and this is going to go right on top of that. Okay, I said I wanted to put some glitter on here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now that the card is complete because it will have to sit and dry. So I am just going to put some clear glue where I want my glitter, or I should say where I want the snow. So here is my final card. I just love how it turned out. So you can see the dimension added up on some foam. And I love that little elf peeking through the window. So here is my completed card. I also created another card with a spring theme, and you can see it here in this picture. I did use some pattern paper. The polka dots is from the Spring Basics paper pad, and it's the blue jay pattern with the white polka dots. I think that is so pretty. And I did many of the same things I did with the previous trucks. I did the foam on the pieces above the wheels. The wheels are in the black, and the other pieces there are in the storm cardstock. And the flowers that you see there, I actually colored those. So I die cut them with the flower die, and I colored those up with my Copic markers. I actually die cut them out of the Spectrum Noir Ultra Smooth cardstock, which is what I use when I color with my alcohol markers. And then I just colored them. I just put some colors on the flowers and just colored them up. I did add some Nuvo glitter drops in White Blizzard to the centers of those flowers. And I also want to point out that I added a shadow layer behind my flowers because, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, when I first got this die set, that was included in my sample, but the final version of this die set did not include the shadow layer, so you are not going to have that shadow die that you see on this card. So I wanted to point that out because I didn't want you guys to get confused on that. That stamp that says a special delivery, that is from the Happy Mail to Stamp set. And one final thing that I did on this card that I want to point out is that window. I actually added some glossy accents to cover that window so it looks like an actual window. And then once again, here is the fall card that I created. Now I will put a link to all of these products in my blog, so head on down to the description box and you will see a link to my blog where you can see all of the products there. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.